Hey there, everybody. Kyle Sasser here, and it's everybody's favorite time. No, not time of the month, not even time of the year. It's just my favorite time ever, and that is when the Florida Realtors and Florida Bar releases a new contract. So, in this video, we are going to be reviewing the Florida Realtors, Florida Bar, as is 7, which replaces the 6, which has been around for a few years. Now, if you are a subscriber to the channel, or if you have been keeping up with my videos, you know that whenever those changes came through in August, when they finally got them out to us, and I was reading through them and gave my opinion, my thought was we're definitely going to have some new contracts or new documents or something within pretty short order, just because there is a lot of gaps and loopholes in the way that the documents were set up previously. And lo and behold, here we are, brand new year, and we got a as is 7 going on. Cool thing about Florida Realtors is whenever they do release a new contract, they release it with the previous lines redacted with lines through it, and then they underline the updated lines. So you can see in pretty quick order where the changes are and what the changes are. We're up to a total of 15 pages now on the as is 7. A little bit of change with, basically defining closing agents and title policies and, who's paying for what on that. Seller pays or buyer pays for the title policies and such. Definitely an update on the Miami-Dade section, but I don't do business in Miami-Dade for real estate, so that does not affect me or my clients that much. Inspection period is identical. There's not any changes to the inspection period. Walkthroughs are still the same. Everything is the same. Escrow agent's the same. Professional advice is the same. Interestingly, there is a section here on buyer defaults and specifically where the earnest money deposit goes. So on the previous contract, there was some language about what happened to that. The new one that's been struck and has not been replaced. These are all pretty minor changes for a major revision. You would think that they would just update the 6, right? As they have done a couple times over the years. And we're still going through here. Liens are still a thing that gets checked. Force majeure. Even though we've had 2 hurricanes, there hasn't been any changes to how force majeure is handled on this contract. Not a lot of changes. Oh, here we are. So a lot of the changes on the as is 7 is this final section here, which is the addendum and additional items section. So what this is if the house is in a homeowners association, there's a specific addendum that has to be included with the contract for that. If it's in a condo, it has to be included with that. If there's a real estate agent that has an ownership interest in the property, there's a specific addendum for that, and that also needs to be included in the contract. By checking this checkbox, that sets this contract to it has to have that addendum completed and signed for this contract to be completed. Now, the usual suspects are here. Condo association, I'm just going to kind of go down in order here. Condo rider, which covers condominiums, ownerships, right of first refusal, monthly association fees. And actually, the condo rider is one of the more significant changes. I actually have it further back here to go over, but it's pretty quick to explain the change. Homeowners association, seller financing. If the property owner owns the house outright and they're doing seller financing, there's a specific addendum for that. FHA and VA financing, there's an appraisal contingency, et cetera, et cetera. Now, to backtrack to August, when we transitioned to mandatory buyer's brokerage agreements and, a little bit of a road bump with seller or brokerage provided compensation. And I said at that time, I was like, the weird thing here is we have these compensation agreements over here, but there is nothing on the contract that specifically ties that agreement to this contract. And at that point in time, I was like, what's probably going to happen? And what I said at that point in time was a buyer is going to submit an offer through their buyer's agent to the listing agent, and the seller is going to sign the offer contract, but they're going to refuse to honor or sign the buyer's agent compensation agreement or paperwork, which is its own separate thing. Because there was no section on this contract on the as is 6 that tied that compensation agreement where the seller is offering to cover some portion of the buyer's agent commission. There was nothing tying this offer with that offer of compensation. And lo and behold, here on this as is 7, we now have two new addendums, FF and GG. These did come out earlier, but they actually formalized this on the as is 7 here. And both of these are related towards compensation towards buyers brokers. It's either a credit or a direct agreement with sellers with respect to buyer brokers compensation. Now, this isn't even really like I told you so or anything like that, because this is completely obvious to anyone who has ever written a real estate contract that this is an obvious problem that should have been sorted out back in August. But here we are, finally got it covered. At least this particular loophole or gap is now covered. So thank you, as is 7. And thank you, Florida Realtors and Florida Bar. The additional major change was in the condo rider. So those of you that have been paying attention to the news, you do know that there's a lot of stuff going on with condos. Funny enough, I was actually talking with somebody the other day, how people are talking about and feeling about condominiums right now is exactly what real estate opportunity smells like, basically. So everyone is absolutely terrified of it. Common wisdom is avoid, 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 avoid. To actually be able to capitalize on the opportunity, you need cash, because that's the reason why the prices have dropped so much on those certain condos anyway, because they have not solved their engineering report problems. And so nobody is financing it. And so the only way to buy a condo in there is with cash, which results in, drastically lowering condo prices in that specific condo. Not all condos, but just that specific condo. And so all of this really very much mirrors the 2007 to 2011, price slide. Real estate opportunity does not show up on a silver platter and look like a no-brainer. It looks like something that should be concerning, but if you actually dive into condos, especially like Taos County, Tampa Bay, this requirement has been known about for 2-3 years at this point in time. Most of the communities that I interact with and have interacted with on transactions and asking questions and stuff like that, most of the communities have gotten their engineering report done, they have gotten their reserves report done, and they have either completed repairs or it is a fully known entity that with a few simple questions to the condo association, you can get the answers for. But everyone is so scared of condos right now that the whole market is lulled, which means that you can usually negotiate a little bit better pricing than you could, say, 2 years ago, when all of this was just kind of getting started and no one really knew what an engineering report was. So the pieces on the condo association. So just so you know, whenever you buy a condo, the seller is required to provide you with all the documentation regarding the condominium at their expense. They can't just say no. They are required per the contract and Florida law to provide you with a copy of the full condo documents, is what it's called. And that's going to be financials, bylaws, articles of incorporation, the condominium legal paperwork. There's like 6 or 7 things. And as part of that, one of the main things that got added here regarding the milestone inspection. And, so this is a mandatory completion for all, real estate professional contracts in the state of Florida. So they must complete the item here about the milestone inspection, whether that has been completed or not. There's an additional section about the turnover inspection report. There was a section added about the structural integrity reserve study, about whether that has been completed or not. And then there's another section in here about providing that inspection report to you. So that does solve a bit of the problem that we were having with condos. Some sellers thought that the engineering report wasn't condo docs. Anyone in their right mind would think that a pending structural defect report and a repair schedule would absolutely be something that's a mandatory disclosure. Thankfully, again, Florida Realtors and Florida Bar has updated this and made it very clear that yes, those are to be communicated from anybody selling a condo to anybody buying a condo. So those are the new updates for the as-is 7. Not as big of a change as the as-is 5 to 6. That definitely shifted some things around a bit. Contract changes are always fun. Unlike previous contracts where, say, deadlines changed from calendar days till they automatically rolled over to the next business day. Not a lot of major changes in here. This is all pretty common sense stuff and shouldn't be any major hiccups transitioning over to the as-is 7 here. Thank you so much for tuning in for this 15-minute dive into the Florida Realtors Florida Bar, as is real estate contract for sale and purchase. This stuff is absolutely critical. that an agent knows this inside and out, backwards and forwards. Not necessarily that you can quote it verbatim, but you at least know the line number for where to go. If there is a dispute over, say, what appliances are required to stay, what condition the house is to be, access to the property for inspections and such, or what happens in the event of a hurricane. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kyle Sasser, and I'll talk to you soon.